Right, so today I want to talk a little bit about the debate last night, and I didn't really take any notes or anything. I did watch almost the whole thing, so I thought I'd make a video about it just because it was borderline worth making a video on it, so I thought I would make a video on it. So basically, I mean, I have this CBC article pulled up about 5 key takeaways, and I actually thought they kind of were the 5 key takeaways, so I wanted to go through them and then talk a little bit. One of the first things that was brought up was Andrew Scheer calling Justin Trudeau a phony, which is true. And I mean, other than, far left partisans, everyone would agree with that. Um, the next one, I believe, was, Maxime Bernier promotes immigration cut. And that was, I mean, kudos to CBC to bring that up and not put it like right in here, basically calling him a Nazi like I expected them to. And I was surprised too that when Bernier talked about it, people clearly opposed it, but they weren't more harsh on him. I thought they would be more harsh on him. And I don't really understand. Like, honestly, Bernier, definitely didn't really go out on a limb. He kind of made his point on this a little watered down. Um, if I was him, he should have brought up the fact that the amount of immigrants that Canada is currently bringing in, we're not allowed. We're not allowed. We're not able to house them. The housing shortage is, I mean, it was existent before the immigration increase. Now it's really a problem. So that's part of the reason of the increase in housing and cost of living is the fact that the demand for cost of living has gone way up because immigration is so high. It's simple demand and supply. When the demand goes up, the price is going to go up. So he should have brought that up. And the other thing he should have brought up is that increasing immigration in the way that Justin Trudeau is doing, I believe only a quarter of the people are actual skilled immigrants, or people that are coming in over the old immigration system, basically people that are going to contribute to society or have family members that are actually paying taxes. So he should have simply brought up that if we keep increasing immigration at the rate we're doing it, that's more and more of a burden on the taxpayers. And again, if you stress the fact that it's going to cost, I mean, Justin Trudeau and I mean everyone on the left and Andrew Scheer even to an extent probably would deny this, even though it's fact. But increasing immigration is going to cost taxpayers more money because when immigrants come in, they get the free health care. I mean, a lot of times they even get the free dental and stuff like that. And someone's got to pay for it, which is either it's going to be debt, which means debt is always almost a guarantee of a future tax hike, or it's going to be a tax hike in the here and now. So it's a tax hike now or it's a tax hike later. Pick your poison. And he should have made that point very clear. And when people who want to cut immigration make those 2 points, they come off as a lot more rational to the hysterical left-wing brainwashed people that think that the only reason you want to cut immigration is because you're racist. So that would have been a good point for him to bring up. Other points here, Trudeau challenged Singh on Bill 21. I don't really think that's a huge issue. The I'm pro-life. Again, I don't think that the whole abortion thing, people are very split on, and even people on the right are still very split on it too. And I think the big difference that people who are pro-life need to get across when they're making arguments is that people on the left, at least when it comes to most issues, but when it comes to abortion especially, they're not interested in compromising. They have the idea that if you don't support abortion right up until the point of birth, even partial birth in a lot of cases, in fact I would say most people on the left are even in support of partial birth, that must mean that first of all, I want to debunk the woman's right. I mean, I've done it before, but I'll do it again. The whole woman's right to choose thing, it's a stupid, stupid argument, like retarded. Because, first of all, if it's a woman's right to choose, men should have the right to choose whether or not they pay child support on that kid. If men can't force a woman to not have or have a kid, a woman shouldn't be able to force a man to pay for said kid. And if you're arguing against that, you're arguing for a different set of rules for men and women that benefits women, which basically means you're arguing for sexism, which you're trying to argue against, basically. So the woman's right to choose, that's one of the things. Number two is that whenever someone brings up male circumcision, everyone has an opinion on it. No one says, "Well, you don't have a penis, so you don't get an opinion on circumcision." No one says that. No one says that. So unless you're willing to say that, then again, that's another contradiction. The other contradiction being is that if you're for abortion, then like I said, I guess the better way of putting it too is that the woman's right to choose argument is it's a contradiction in the other way, and that's sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. Whenever, one of the other things they talked about a lot in this debate that I really wanted to talk about too is that they talked Justin Trudeau must have said it 100 times, it seems like, the 1% and they talk about how Canadians, they should all have a voice, but yet no one says that people who don't pay taxes shouldn't get a right to tell people who pay taxes what their tax dollars should go towards. Right? That's another point too that just contradicts this whole idea, is that if women only get the right to have an opinion on abortion, then why do people who don't pay taxes get a right to talk about what tax dollars should go towards? Right? But the left, pretty well all of their views have not only one contradiction but multiple contradictions in them. So that's again another point too, that like if you're proposing if you have policies that have clear and obvious contradictions, you're either an idiot or you're trying to manipulate people. It's one or the other. I mean, the left, it's almost always they're trying to manipulate people. They just want power, they want control, they want a bigger government, they're willing to do whatever it takes and say whatever it takes to get there. So it's such a terrible, terrible argument that I can't believe someone like Andrew Scheer didn't have a better defense against it. But a lot of his voting base is religious, which means they're going to support him, and then there's a lot of people that aren't religious that are going to support him too. And I don't think it's I won't vote for him simply because of that issue for him. So I don't get it from his perspective. He should have went more out on a limb. Like personally, I think at the very least abortion should be very, very limited in, like, let's say past the first trimester. In a perfect world it would be gone, but the one thing I wanted to point out is that the left always talks about, oh, let's compromise, and we're open to debate, and we're tolerant and all this kind of stuff. But yet their position on abortion is we want as far as you can possibly go one way, or nothing. Like that's so. I mean, they don't want to compromise, basically, but. That's something that I think Scheer should have. I don't think he handled it great, but I think his position is decent at least. Climate change. That's the thing they talked about most in the debate. I don't get why, but just that's the way it is. I don't really get it. I mean, 33% of Canadians don't even believe in climate change, and I bet you there's a lot that are doubting. And so let's just take the other 2/3 of people that believe in it. Probably 20-30% of those don't think that the carbon tax or the government's the solution to the problem. So this is the one position that Scheer has that I do not understand. That when you, like, let's say you go to one of these climate marches where people are shutting down streets and stuff, I would bet money that probably 90 to 95% of those people are left of center, and probably like 75-80 of them are far left. So like Andrew Scheer, by saying that, like, I don't care about climate change, you're barely losing any voters, if any. So I don't get. Andrew Scheer seems to want to pander to he picks issues to pander to the left on that aren't really good issues to pander to the left on. Like, I don't really get it. But he's gonna more than likely win the election just because Trudeau is so bad. Like, the one big takeaway from the debate is Justin Trudeau was the one who definitely rightfully so, took the most flack. Jagmeet Singh spent a lot of time going after Trudeau. Elizabeth May, on the climate, Jagmeet Singh on pretty much everything. Andrew Scheer I think Andrew Scheer was talked a little bit too much about Justin Trudeau. It seemed like he was a little obsessed with getting his attacks in on Justin Trudeau, but it's not as if Justin Trudeau doesn't have a lot of stuff to go after him on. Maxime Bernier was decent. I was surprised they let him talk as much as he did. They didn't really cut cut anyone off that much. It wasn't like any blatant cutoffs that I was kind of expecting. But long story short, I mean, the other thing too, the whole 1% thing about the taxes and stuff, that's another one that really kind of gets at me, because notice when they say the rich don't pay their fair share, they don't tell you how much the rich pay, in the fact that, I mean, probably, I don't know, 2/3 of Canadian adults, probably more actually, probably 75%, are net negatives on society, which means they take out more from the system than they put in, and probably, I don't know, 20 to 25, maybe 30% put in nothing, or at least such a small amount that it's negligible. And that they don't tell you that, I mean, someone making 7-8 figures is literally paying probably 100 times, or putting 100 times that much into the system as someone who's making 25,000-30,000 a year. So they don't tell you that. That's the one thing that really bothers me, is if you're going to have this position that we need to tax the rich, at least tell people how much more the quote-unquote rich are putting into the system than someone on a minimum wage, or like 25,000-30,000 a year salary. That they don't tell you that, because if they told people that, they'd realize that the rich do pay their fair share. In fact, they're the only people that pay their fair share. I mean, people who are making, probably anyone making under probably 50,000-60,000 is probably taking more out of the system than they're putting in. So in essence, you can't tax people that are making low income any less than you currently are. Like, I mean, basically the best way of putting it is you can't cut taxes on people who aren't paying taxes, or are paying such a small amount that it wouldn't even matter, basically. But that's kind of all the points I wanted to go over as far as the debate goes. Basically, in summary, Justin Trudeau's the big loser. I mean, Andrew Scheer was so-so. Maxime Bernier, I think, was decent. He probably had the best performance, but I still think that he could have did a better job. I mean, seeing their far left, and Elizabeth May is even further left, crazy, and then the Quebecois guy, they have no chance of winning. Not that the Green Party or the NDP or even the PPC does either, but the PPC are at least relevant, the NDP are at least relevant, and the Greens are at least relevant. And I mean, the Quebecois, I mean, they're relevant, but they're not going to win. They're just worried about Quebec. So that's about all as far as this video goes. If you'd like to, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.